This bad boy right here on Elm's website costs $22,000. It is the EcoMaster disc repair machine, and we have now owned it for 2 months. And I wanted to give you guys an update and review on this unit because there's pretty much nothing else on YouTube talking about what the pros are, what the cons are, and whether or not it is worth it for you to buy one for your own resale business. So I have gone ahead and taken the liberty of preparing a whole bunch of notes for you guys on pros and cons of the EcoMaster, how to save money when you buy one, and finally, who among you should buy one? When does it become worth it? So let's go ahead and start out with the pros. Before buying this unit, had been using this guy over here. This is the Eco Auto Smart. Forgive the clutter around here. We're processing a bunch of games. But this bad boy right here is from the same company, Elm, as the EcoMaster. It uses a lot of the same supplies. The difference is it costs, I want to say like $4K, 4 to 5 maybe in that range. Forgive me, I didn't look up the price. It's way cheaper. But it also only does one disc at a time. This bad boy, you open up this compartment right here and you can load in a stack of 50 discs at once onto this spindle, and over the course of a few hours or an afternoon, or maybe down here, Spanky is letting me know, over the course of an afternoon, it will knock them out one after the other. So that's a huge thing in terms of time savings. We estimated that because of the efficiencies that you save by just taking a disc out, plop it on the pile, take a disc out, plop it on the pile, boom, 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 until you have 50 of them. And then once it's done, just doing that process in reverse, the average disc takes about 12 seconds of labor to resurface, basically to take it out of the case, and then once it's done, to put it back in the case, versus around 40 seconds on the good old Auto Smart over here. That difference comes primarily from the fact that oftentimes after coming out of this machine, you do have to wipe it down and get the residue off, and the discs seem to come out much cleaner from this machine. So you're saving a good amount of time per disc. You can do 50 games per batch, which means you can basically set it and forget it, which saves you a whole bunch of time in terms of like not having to be right at the resurfacer in order to continuously run discs. Like if I had 50 discs at that machine, I'd probably have to be right next to the unit for like a whole afternoon in order to actually get through them all. Up next, we have consistent quality. So far from what we've seen, it just does a good job at what it says it does. We didn't have any issues on that with the Auto Smart either. Now, folks, we got to talk about the cons because this is a very expensive machine, $22,000 if you get it new with no discount. The first con that I have on here that surprised me a little bit is the noise. They claim on their website, I'm just going to go ahead, we have one disc in here so that you guys can actually hear for yourselves. Press start on that. They claim on their website that you can run one of these in a library and nobody would really care. In my experience, it runs basically on the level of like a quiet vacuum. Like it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's library level. It won't really disrupt your conversation, but it's enough that you notice it. And as it shifts cycles, as I'm talking about the rest of these, you guys will be able to hear it a little bit more. The next con that we have here is maintenance. Now, we've had some miscellaneous repairs that we've had to do and get customer service on the phone and stuff like that because we did buy a refurbished unit, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But even in addition to like the miscellaneous repairs, mostly around trying to figure out how to do GameCube games that we'll talk about later, there's, I would say, probably 20 to 25 minutes of regular weekly maintenance that you need to do on this machine if you're doing at least one stack of 50 discs every week that you want to take into account. We did significantly less. We spent less time doing regular maintenance on this bad boy, except for just like changing out some of the like sanding, what are those things called? The little circles?
Pads.
The pads, changing out the pads in the solution. This, there's like a whole routine that you have to go through that involves changing out the water and, multiple other things that I've literally never done because Spanky is our EcoMaster master. This thing right here, GameCube Games. If you are a video game seller, you really want to take this into account. Our original deal, we were going to trade in the Auto Smart in order to get this unit and to get the price that we did, which we'll talk about. We didn't end up doing that because we could not get this thing to run GameCube games. Part of the system down here is you put the stack of games right here, and there's a vacuum hose that sucks them up to like get into the actual like resurfacing part of the unit. And that hose wasn't able to suck up the games that were inside of the GameCube game adapter right here to make them the size of a regular disc. So long story short, we had to keep that unit in order to even have any way of still resurfacing the games that need to be repaired. And I've heard from other owners of EcoMaster units that this is a common problem. So if you're doing a lot of GameCube games, I would stick with a simpler unit that just loads one by one. Supply costs. Especially since this is getting a little loud over here, let's take a little field trip over to the computer, because this is one of the most significant cons, I would say, of buying Elm products. Let's take a look over here. Because not only is the upfront cost of their units incredibly high, but their supplies are also a lot more expensive than I would think, or that I would assume, for these kinds of products. Now, this is not too bad, right? A set of yellow pads, $350, that's not terrible. You will have to have multiple different colors of these if you want to be running the EcoMaster. But where it really gets sticky is the polish compound. A very small bottle of it is 16 bucks. Solution D, a larger bottle of it, is $40. And then this is one of my favorites. A 20 pack of basically coffee filters is $40. Some of these prices, Elm, if you're watching, help a brother out. I mean, I know that your buy cost on each one of these is 10 cents. Like, I'm all for beefy margins, but this is getting a little bit crazy. It sounds like our disc is done over there in our single game cycle, by the way, and it'll get a little bit quieter in here. This, like those game disc adapters that I just told you about for the GameCube games, $16, folks. And then just the little rubber rings that you put around them once they start to wear out the stickiness, a 10-pack of them is $10. $10 for 10 stickers, Elm? If you're watching, you gotta help us out. The product has been great. As I said in all of the pros section, we really like the results that we get from the unit. It does sting a little bit every time we have to reorder supplies. And the thing is, on top of all of these, even if you're only buying a sticker pack, they'll probably charge you $10 for shipping. That's just how it has been on the website. So wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of that up front. The supply costs are really rough. And then the final thing in the cons column is going to be the risk of repair, because if you're getting a unit this size, you're not just gonna box this thing up with a whole bunch of styrofoam and bubble wrap and ship it off. This ships on a pallet. So every time you want to send it to them, you're looking at probably $100+ shipping on a pallet each way if you want them to repair it. The good news is, and I probably should have put this in the pros column, their customer service is really good about helping you through if you have a problem. Hey, the suction hose isn't working anymore. Helping you figure out, okay, what exactly is the part that you need, and then when they ship it to you, figuring out how to install it yourself, because the shipping process on an item like this is so cumbersome. So I'll add in the pros column, their support has been pretty solid for us. Nice being able to talk to an actual person when we call in and get problems resolved, especially on such an expensive unit. But there is a risk, especially when you're buying a refurbished unit, or if something could happen in shipping or something like that, that if this thing breaks, it's going to cost a lot more to send it out and get it repaired, or it's going to cost you a good amount of time to figure out how to do the repair yourself. Although we have also heard from other people who have this, an EcoMaster, that sometimes repairs don't take that long, depending on what it is. So take that with a grain of salt. Just want to make you aware of that. Now, if you do want one of these machines, how can you save money on it? Well, one is you can get a refurbished unit rather than a new one. The refurbs tend to run about half the price of the new units, and these things are built like tanks. Like this one, I know someone who has a serial number 16 on his unit, so it's a very old model, and it's still plugging and chugging. They run a batch of 50 games or more every single day, and they're having relatively few issues. So they're built very well. So I wouldn't be concerned that much. We bought our unit refurbished, and that took the sticker price down significantly. The only con with that is that oftentimes there are wait lists and you'll have to wait a longer time to get it. I think for us it took like a month and a half. Two is on the holidays, they tend to have really good sales. I believe we got ours during a Memorial Day sale, but they'll also have some on like Black Friday, Labor Day. Usually around the holidays, there will be some sort of promotion going on, which can be really nice, especially if you're also getting a refurbished unit. And then the last way to save is they often will do trade-in deals for your previous resurfacer machine if you're upgrading. So when we bought this unit, we did boom, boom, and boom to take it down from a $22,000 retail price to, in reality, around $7,000. Now, we would have had to trade that unit in order to get that price if it had no issues with the GameCube games. So $7,000 is about as $7,000 is about as low as I've ever heard of a unit going for. I wouldn't necessarily expect that, but you can stack some of these discounts if you're willing to go refurbished and on the holidays. Now here's the golden question. Who should buy this unit? At what point does it become worth it to upgrade from like a $4,000-ish machine to like the $20-something thousand machine? Or more likely, I think most people do get them refurbished, so you're probably looking in the like, $10K-ish range. When does it become worth it? The general rule of thumb that we've come up with from talking to a few other people that have these machines and our own experience is that if you're doing around at least 50 discs per week, that's our general recommendation of when you should consider upgrading. Assuming that you have the cash flow to purchase a machine like this, which will probably disqualify a lot of people. I don't know if they have payment plans or anything like that. But if you're doing at least one full batch of games, we're probably doing on average a batch and a half or 75 games a week, I believe it's worth it because the biggest thing that saves us is not just, they also say on their website that the cost of supplies on average per disc is lower on this unit than any of their other units. So that's a plus, but what you're really saving is time. Because if you're going through a batch of 50 on that AutoSmart over here, you're going to have to sit next to it the whole afternoon and be interrupted with whatever else you're doing every couple of minutes in order to change the disc. So you basically, the way that Spencer just explained this to me is like, if you're trying to do a large batch on this, you have to look for some other activity that kind of fills the gaps while you're having a resurfacing afternoon. If you have a unit like this and you can just plop the stack of 50 in all at once, you just push a button and you have the rest of the afternoon to do what you want. If it's at the computer, if it's prepping games, if it's running errands, whatever, because this thing is doing the work for you. So being able to save for us on average about one afternoon worth of work per week was very worth the $7,000 to $10,000 cost when you extrapolate that over the long run. And if you're doing more than 50 discs, I think the return on that investment just goes up and up. A couple other factors that you'll want to consider in whether or not to buy this unit is your opportunity cost, right? Like how much extra money can you make with that free afternoon every week? If you really struggle with sourcing and you tend to have a lot more time than you have money, then you might want to put this purchase off longer. Because it's not as costly to just sit by the computer if you're working by yourself and just pop in a disc every couple of minutes while you're sourcing online or while you're cleaning stuff. That might not bother you all that much, so that might be a good reason to hold off on that purchase longer, even if you are doing 50 discs per week on average. If we ever hear back from Elm, we tried to reach out and get like some sort of a affiliate link or like a discount code for supplies or something like that. If we ever get one of those, we'll put it in the description because we do really believe in these products. It's just good to go into it understanding how much it's really going to cost and what the pros and cons are. So check the description. If we've gotten a link like that, we will share it with you guys, and hope this helps.